There we go. Got it. Apologies, folks. So there we go. Right, all good. Right, so we'll get cracking then, since we're a couple of minutes behind now. So just do another quick check, just make sure everyone can hear. So Katie says she can hear, so that's all good. So yeah, all good. We will crack on. So thank you very much for being with us today for this webinar. So just quickly on myself, so I'm Rich Chapman. I'm CRO consultant for Impression, and yeah, I've been in the industry about 10 years, doing CRO for around 7 at different agencies, working across very numerous different clients, verticals, markets, etc. So yeah, and this today, what we're going to go through is really kind of one of the things that I found over the years is the sort of, it can be a bit tricky to sort of get CRO aligned up to your acquisition based campaign strategy. So if you're doing SEO, paid search, etc., and suddenly you've got to add in another thing that you've got to work on. And because of the nature of CRO itself, it very much sits as a central service. So thank you to everybody that's saying that they can hear now. So all good. Thank you for that. So yeah, and this is kind of going to go into the nitty gritty of kind of how we do that. So one part of this is going to be just on the data, and what kind of data that we need from SEO and paid search, in particular being the big 2 traffic acquisition disciplines, and also the other section that I'm going to go into, which really people don't really discuss too much, but what I found in my experience is probably one of the biggest sticking points, really, and you know, to make CRO work effectively, it has to all be lined up. So I'm going to go through some of the sort of pain points and teething problems and sort of how we get around that later on in the webinar. So we'll get cracking then. I think Polly is around from Impression as well, so any questions, hopefully she can help field some of those, and I'll try and keep an eye on the chat as well as we are going through. So yeah, feel free to ask questions in the chat as we are going, and then we'll hang around at the end for a few more as well. So all good. Right, so how to integrate CRO with acquisition-based campaigns. So I've given us a quick overview already. So there's two key things really that I'd like you to be able to take away from today. So what data a CRO campaign needs from SEO and paid search. Obviously there are other acquisition tools out there, but these two are the primary two. And how to make the most of your traffic by aligning conversion rate optimization with those acquisition-based services. So making sure that it's all lined up. You're not just doing testing for the sake of it. It's really strategic, and it's really mapped out, lined up, and everybody knows and is communicating well. So there's 2 key things really that CRO needs to focus. So sometimes CRO can be siloed. It's kind of given this sort of area of its own working, and people kind of go and test websites and create new experiences and things, very much be design focused. But it's much better, and you get faster results when you work all of that together with your acquisition campaign. So we know what's going on in paid search, and we know what's going on in SEO, and that really adds into the mix of strategy for CRO and for the hypothesis that you're going to create for then making tests on your own website. So our previous webinar that I did, which is still available to watch, this slide has been tweaked a little bit from that. So why do we do CRO? So we all know, a small increase in conversion rate can mean a large increase in revenue. And then the difference with this one today is CRO can provide an ROI lift to all other acquisition-based services if we get it right. And that really is the crux of this. So So we're spending lots and lots of money on paid search, on SEO, excuse me, and we need to make sure that when the traffic arrives at the website that it does the best that it possibly can. This is where CRO really comes in to help boost that. So not only can you get a overall conversion lift for the website, so the business in general, but actually the money that you're investing can get a better return on that investment that you're using that budget for. The other point is giving users a better experience can increase the lifetime value of a customer. So if they really get on well with your site, they think it's easy to use, and we want to make it as easy to use as possible. There's less thinking involved. There's better exposure of things like USPs, and we answer users' pain points a lot better. We really find the perfect balance of that through testing. You can also convert users in less visits. So this means that you might actually pay for less clicks through paid search. So again, saving you budget. So another digital strategy element to do, and I hear this fairly regularly. So for marketing managers, heads of marketing, digital, etc. There's so much to do now and focus on. So if it really depends on company size of how much you do, but if you're doing all of those listed there, it's a very complicated job. So imagine you're doing SEO, digital PR, paid search, paid social, email, etc. The list goes on, and then suddenly somebody comes on and goes, "You should be doing CRO," and it's just like, oh, yeah, I totally hear that. But the advantage of it is if it sits centrally, it kind of knits into it very, very well. So I completely understand the pain point, but the benefits can be very, very rewarding for it. So where does it fit with acquisition? So in the middle, basically. So a good CRO campaign needs information and data from SEO and paid search campaigns to achieve the best results. So that means that information needs to flow fairly freely from paid search, SEO, plus your other areas as well, but we're just going to focus on those two today, being the bigger leaders, and make sure that information is passed so that then we can feed it into the strategy, basically, so that we know what users are doing, how they're arriving at the site, and then what we then do with them after they have landed. And we'll come on to that in more detail. So yeah, so data is used for hypothesis creation within CRO. So this is where we really start to create and think about how we're going to change a website experience to align it better to what's happening with paid search campaigns, keywords that users are coming in on, ad text, and also from an SEO perspective, what keywords are ranking well, so helping to drive to give us a bit more user intent, and also where that traffic is going throughout the site. And this all helps us build a really good, strong hypothesis that gives us much better testing. It gives us better results and usually faster testing times as well. So it's you really want to go for a much more data-led approach. Certainly not doing things like guesswork or just changing the color of a button for the sake of it. So data mining, as dull as a term that is, it really can pay off well. So we're just going to have a look at paid search data now and kind of drill down into that and see what parts are the most useful for CRO. So what are the highest spending keywords? Which keywords are the most important to the business? And which web pages need to be optimized better around them? And there's various metrics and things that we can look at to kind of help improve where those big spending keywords are sending traffic to. So things like bounce rates, average time on page, quality score within AdWords, and really kind of just try and get into the users' heads a little bit more of user intent when they land on those pages from the keywords that you're spending money on. So what are the best performing keywords. So there's a lot of negative stuff with CRO, but there's also, we do need to look at the positives as well, and we might be able to take some of those positives and then spread those out across the site even wider. So this really gives us an idea of what users are responding best to. So looking at best performing generics is a really good source, and it can show us what messaging we need to make the most of on the website. So suddenly we have a new generic term come into play and the website isn't optimized for it. We can then create hypothesis and testing to see how we leverage out the best and just find the best experience for the users to make sure that they convert as fast as possible. There's a couple of questions just come in. So yes, this will go out as a recording, and also yes, the slides will also be shared following this. So no worries on that. Also, what is not converting well? So again, this is looking at the negative side of things. So obviously we need to fix, all the sort of problem areas that CRO analysis might find. So we need to look at what's not performing and ensure any hypothesis or testing changes. Basically avoids these kind of negative terms that are not working so well. So one thing within CRO is because we can win and lose tests. When you lose a B test, it's not necessarily such a negative thing, because in my experience, somebody 6 months later down the line says, "Hey, wouldn't it be good to change the website to this?" And we'll go, "Actually, we've already tried that and it didn't work. So we don't need to waste any more sort of time and money on doing that." That bit of development work and design. So what's not converting well really kind of feeds into what we need to avoid, and also we might find things on the site when we're looking at it in greater depth that we then need to remove. What are the highest traffic landing pages? So where is all the high traffic keywords sending the users to? CROs will generally optimize the click to landing journey. So we need to know which pages that users are arriving in on. And this is really good when it comes from the paid search team itself. And yes, we can go away and look at analytics, but that little bit of communication really does help shine lights on that a little bit more. So we now know sort of the highest keywords that are sending traffic to the sites, where they're going, negative things to avoid, and what the positives are. And this really starts to give us a good picture. And then following that, in sort of general terms, we need to know what's happening. So a user has clicked and spent a bit of your budget. They've landed on the site. We've analysed that. We've looked at the positives and negatives, and now we need to really kind of evaluate what happens next. So do they get one page down from this keyword, from this landing page? Do they get further than that? So in sort of normal campaign analysis terms, we might look at sort of how many users click to the site, how many don't bounce. Obviously how many convert, but looking at it in this way and kind of how that spread happens out throughout the site. Are they going to the right places that we want them to go to? Are they actually going away from where we need them to go to? Can we put a test in place to then adjust that so that that paid search campaign is then improved and you get better ROI from it? So all of this helps us build a much bigger picture. It helps us establish user intent, what the expectation is, what the user behavior is across the site, and we can then start to really align the hypothesis to your budget, your campaign goals. And this is really how we start to boost that ROI for paid search. And then hopefully, if you then get better ROI on those existing terms that you're bidding on, and you're sending traffic to your website through, you can then reinvest any excess that you've then got into more terms, and the process just becomes wider and bigger, and you're catching more traffic, and we're optimizing for those new terms as well. So then it just becomes an ongoing process of growth and capturing more of the market. So in the first instance, we certainly look at the sort of existing campaign. Once we've kind of got that nailed down and it's working really well, we can then go ahead and expand upon that. So, okay. So now we're going to look at SEO data. So again, we're just going to go through what information is really useful from SEO to feed into CRO campaigns. So again, what are the keywords that we're targeting for ranking? Which keywords are the most important to the business, and which web pages again need to be optimized around them? Now, it's a little bit muddier with SEO. It's not quite as precise because of, you know, Google hides certain things from us these days, unfortunately. Yes, I'm old enough to remember the time when that wasn't the case. We had free reign to all keywords and all landing pages that traffic was going to, which was very nice and very useful. A little bit more difficult now though. Which keywords are ranking highly? So which keywords are sending the most traffic to the site, but yeah, it's not an exact science, since not provided came in to play, but we do have a pretty good idea, because we can look at what keywords we know are ranking highly from certain softwares, and we also know which landing pages are going up in traffic, and we can kind of tie the two together. This helps us again build a picture of user intent from an organic perspective. Done slightly differently from the way that paid search would do that. So again, we know the entry points where users are going to, and we know roughly what keyword they are coming in on, hopefully providing us with that user intent that we can then start to build hypothesis and testing around to make sure that click to landing journey is absolutely tied up, so that the user knows when they land on the website where they are, and we've got the same messaging in place from what they've clicked on originally. That generally helps us get past this sort of 2-second decision-making time frame that people have when they land on a site. You've basically got 2 seconds available to convince them that, one, they're in the right place, and that they're going to either scroll or go for the menu or do something from that original click. So what content has worked well? So looking at the high-ranking content that search engines like and users like is very useful for creating hypothesis from. So we will want to know, you know, content changes that have been very effective in terms of ranking, but also from a user engagement perspective. So it's not just looking at the traffic that has acquired, it's actually what that traffic has done differently since that change was made. So again, we can look at things like bounce rates, exit rates in analytics. We can look at average time on site. We can look at what pages that those users went to next. And it's really starting to look at things a lot more finite detail in terms of user experience of what happened after that first click had happened. So not just looking at, we've acquired this traffic and it's converting at this much. Let's go away and acquire more of it. So actually, let's make the most of that and try and really hone it for what existing traffic that you already have. So what content has not worked well? So really kind of learning, has anything been deployed in the past that we all thought that's going to work brilliantly and it doesn't? What do we need to avoid? So we need to find out what users didn't like, and again, it's helping us to avoid feeding that into any new hypothesis and testing on the website, and also making sure that when we are going through content and analysing pages that if we spot some of that is still in place on the site, that it gets removed, or at least targeting those pages for change for the future. Are there any keywords that the site appears for that are irrelevant for conversion? So sounds like a bit of an odd thing to say, but again, I have seen this happen a few times. Best example was shipping containers site that I used to work on, used to appear for the sizes of shipping containers. So people, before they bought one, when they were early on in their journey, they would go and measure up basically to see where is this thing going to fit, because they're pretty big. So you would think that was traffic that was then going to come back and buy, but the problem was it was all in a territory that this company didn't sell to. So this was all USA traffic, and their conversion rate was very low in terms of analytics data. And then as soon as we removed that data from analytics, it just showed the conversion rate to be much, much higher. So we need to be cautious of, is anything muddying the water here, that users are coming on to the site, but it's an irrelevant term that you just happen to be ranking for, that really kind of masks the true picture of what's going on. And it's very easy to kind of look in analytics and do kind of basic analysis and say, okay, this keyword's bringing loads of traffic, we need to optimize around it, whereas in fact, actually we don't. So you can save yourself a lot of time by doing this as an exercise and going through those keywords that are all bringing traffic and saying, right, are they all relevant? Should we be optimizing the site against all of them, or actually this one here that's actually driving a significant chunk is completely irrelevant? It's just happened by chance a lot of the time. So yeah, I've seen quite a few examples of that over the years. What types of sites are referring traffic? So this is where SEO data really starts to differ from paid search data. So looking at backlinks and referral sites can give us an idea of what users are reading elsewhere, and helps us build a better picture of things like demographics and personas. So there was an e-commerce bedding site that I worked on, and they had tons of backlinks from magazines and newspapers, and we were able to analyze those to see, and these were all sites that were sending traffic through to them. So we were able to go away and look at the content on those sites, and then weave that into content where those users were going to, where the links were pointing on the client site. And we're able to put that into testing to see if actually can we optimize better for that traffic coming from that site to this site, and in general looking at the demographic and persona of those users, and just better aligning the site messaging, design, look, feel for that user base, and saw some good results from it. So it really can be quite revealing to kind of go through backlinks that are actually sending traffic, referral sites that are sending decent traffic through. It just kind of gives us an extra level to shoot at. So there's a lot of this is kind of initial analysis stuff that helps you build out a strategy and campaign and testing for CRO. But what happens when things change? And this is from what I've seen over the years, it's all feel very good at the start, but we need to keep it going and make sure that communication stays really, really high. And I'll come on to the whys of that shortly. So if keywords increase in rank, so rank increases obviously lead to more traffic, and this can go through to pages that you might already be working on. It might be pages that you're not working on. So we always need to know what's changing in the traffic landscape. So say we've got one page down that's only sending a lot of traffic, that's receiving a lot of traffic from a certain keyword, but then another keyword comes in to play because the market's changed. There's a new product, or something like that. We need to make sure that that information is coming through so that we can jump on it pretty quickly. So, which is one of the benefits of a CRO is that you can do things pretty immediately once you set up with the software. So this really allows us to create much better hypothesis and testing. So it allows us to create hypothesis and testing for your acquisition campaigns, your wider business targets, improving your campaign ROI, and helping to solve the weak points of your website and possibly within the campaigns themselves, just by having another team going through things. So this is really why we do this, and it gives us a much more effective way of creating hypothesis for testing. It gives us a much better grounding for that, and it really starts to remove kind of all of the guesswork, or let's just change this button, or that headline, or this page is a bit old and needs updating. This really looks at where you're spending your money, where your business is in terms of traffic is going, and how we really target and focus on that to get the best from it. Okay. So this can give us improvements for quality score. So you might then need to spend less on your paid search to get up the AdWords rankings. Bounce rates, exit rates on the website, so users hang around a lot longer, again getting further in their journeys and getting further down your sales funnels. Higher conversions, obviously a bit of a no-brainer. Less visits per conversion, that's a really good one, because it might just mean that actually people are converting quicker, which is better for your cash flow, especially in current circumstances. Higher lifetime value and repeat business, and overall just better ROI from what you're spending your budget on. So that kind of concludes the first section of this, and I'm going to go into the part of this now, which is really kind of how that all kind of glues together. So whether you're a you could be a one-person band, you could be a digital marketing manager that's working with an agency and has in-house teams as well, or you could have multiple of those, and kind of how this all kind of works together with one another. So when we start CRO, usually it's the last service to be undertaken to boost digital performance, and it does affect all of your other services. So if you're testing across a website, that means that and you're testing across all traffic, it's going to affect all of the acquisition services. It's going to affect their results because essentially we could be testing across 50% of the traffic that they're sending through to the website, and giving those users a different experience. So they need to know what's going on as much as we need to know from a CRO point of view what paid search are doing. And this really starts to kind of open your eyes and go, okay, it means a lot of communication back and forth, and everybody needs to know what's going on. So whether you've got a person working on CRO in an in-house team, and then you've got an agency doing paid search for you, or so on, it means change, and it also means that people need to think a little bit differently. So communication is really the key to this. And the reason for this is CRO will give you the ability to change a website through software very, very quickly. So once you've got software installed via a piece of JavaScript, like, I mean, we use VWO here at Impression, we can essentially log into that and start changing content very, very quickly on the site, and then deploy it via that piece of software and serve that to a percentage of your traffic. So that means that suddenly you are then changing very, very quickly what's going on your site. It also gives us the ability to test across targeted traffic segments. So if CROs work with your paid search team, we can actually target just paid search traffic and really try to get the best experience for it. You can then get into levels of things like personalization for that traffic as well, where you can look at individual campaigns and pages and start to really hone the ROI on a per campaign basis. And of course, there's all of the other segments are available to you, such as devices, browsers, etc., etc. So you can be really targeted with your CRO campaign testing. So doing CRO in your situation. So I'm really talking about you guys here now. So who do you need to collaborate with? And so I mentioned that collaboration is really the key to this. So you could be a one-person band, you could be using an agency or multiple, you could have in-house teams, it could be a combination. No matter your setup, it still basically works exactly the same way. So it just means that data and information needs to flow freely between parties to enable that level of detail that we can then put into CRO and testing to get those better results for you. So who do we need to collaborate with? So using agencies would need to collaborate together, of course. This is something that I've done routinely over the years. Working with in-house teams, working with the external developers as well, and it's really kind of starting to change mindset of how information needs to be passed back and forth pretty quickly, so that we're always on top of what's going on the website. So things to communicate, so ranking increases and decreases. So if we have an SEO, that needs really to come from them. Ranking for new keywords, so new keywords that we're now appearing for. Suddenly we might have some poor performing landing pages that CRO can start to work on and try to improve. So cases where I've seen this is suddenly Google does its classic shake of the snow globe and changes the algorithm, and suddenly we've got poor performing pages that we need to reevaluate and look at. New keywords that are being bid on from a paid search perspective. There might be a new product rollout. So yeah. Dropping quality score on landing pages, and also things like new competition in the market or just in the SERPs in general. The market stuff is always a good one for a CRO to analyze to see what the competitors are doing, and where your site kind of fits alongside that. So is it positioned correctly? Is it up to the same standards, or is it far ahead? So a lot of this means change, new processes, a lot of new opinion. So because CRO can be very design based, everybody wants to have a say on exactly what's going to be changed and how we are going to change it. So what colors to use, what images, and suddenly when people are bought into it, a lot of ideas come to the forefront very, very quickly, where people would be kind of itching to do something in a different way on the site that they've not been able to do previously, because it means going through development and sprints and all that stuff, and there's a high cost to it. Whereas now suddenly you've got the ability to test that first, and then get the developers to roll it out and put it live if it's been successful. So suddenly we get a flood of ideas, but we always have to make sure that whatever we are testing is based on the information and campaigns that we've been through previously on this. So right, so yeah. It all has to be managed as CRO is bedded in and becomes a central strategic way of using insights and information to basically create that much better website experience and increase your ROI. So CRO can be the glue and solution to successfully integrating your digital strategy elements so that they can perform more effectively as one. CRO affects and depends on the performance of acquisition channels. Good communication between teams, agencies, etc. is a basic requirement of that. So CRO can test on channels, therefore you need to communicate that that's going to be happening to whoever's managing those channels and vice versa. Better collaboration and communication between teams will benefit your overall strategy. So suddenly you've got this centralized piece where communication is going to flow in and out of. So what does it take to do this, to get it right and get that balance? It takes buy-in. So kind of went through a bit of this in my previous webinar. It takes a bit of vision setting, really getting the benefits across that each channel actually can really benefit from doing this, because the work that they are putting in or that you're doing on SEO can actually, or paid search can really get a lift from then incorporating CRO into that and testing on those traffic sets that people are working very hard to acquire for you. It can mean culture or process change, which is always the difficult bedding in part of this. So this is why I kind of speak about this, because a lot of webinars and information on CRO will be very strategic and tactical. In real life, this is what happens because you're adding something into the mix that can basically affect change for all of those different parties. So it's something that we need to be aware of. So slightly ahead of time, so just got some key takeaways, and then I'll open up the floor to any more questions. So key things to take away from today is allow the data to flow between parties and make sure that everybody's kind of clued up, whether it's centralized reporting, meetings, just allow that information. Encourage collaboration, and everybody can basically benefit from it. So CRO will generally do most of the legwork in looking at research and analysis, but getting that extra level of information directly from people, from teams, from whoever's managing those campaigns is really worth its weight in gold. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I will open up to questions. So if anybody's got any questions, wants to pop them into the chat, I will happily answer them. Or I think my email is on the invite as well. If anybody wants to ping anything through, then by all means, feel free to do via that method as well. So I'll just pause for a moment if anybody's got any questions. Nope, I will take that as a no then, seeing as none have popped up in the chat. So, okay, folks. So thank you very much for being with us. There will be a copy of this that will be sent out, and the slide deck as well. So if you do have any questions or just want to know more or just want to chat CRO, then please just get in touch with us. No worries. Thank you very much, Dor Valley. Yeah, great to get some feedback there. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, folks, and hopefully see you on the next one. Thank you.